Good morning, Drive Time. Welcome back. As always, I'm Dave Drum, and what's really exciting about this episode of Drive Time is this is our 1-year anniversary. We have been at this for a full 12 months, and the cool thing is we started this all out with Pastor Cory Demmel, and what better person to bring on for the anniversary show than Pastor Cory Demmel? And it's taken me a full year to actually get on his calendar because he's just that slam packed doing stuff for you guys.
You need to stop telling lies on the internet, Dave.
Isn't that what people do?
That's true. Never mind. Carry on.
So anyways, I asked Pastor Cory to hop back on here with us, spend a little bit of time with us, and just, you know, he started a year ago talking about adding value. And as we talked just a little bit ago before we hit record on this, I think really continuing that theme of adding value as men in our church. So again, Cory, thanks for being here. Thanks for spending some time with us. And hey, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I love what we talked about a year ago. Because I think adding value is just something that is always ongoing. It's always a process, and there's always new ways to do it. There's always opportunities. And, for me, one of the appeals to that, probably as I mentioned a year ago, is when your life is about adding value, it gives purpose to all the moments. And even when you look back at the beginning of the story of the Bible, God had told Adam and Eve, I want you to work the ground and take care of it, before sin had ever entered in the world. And so work is not a byproduct of sin. Work and improving and adding value and enhancing what you're a part of is part of our God-given perfection design, not the flawed sin design. And so I know we're going to talk a little bit about that, just ways we as men can, but I hope anybody who's watching this or who's been with us, or maybe you remember the first one, or even if you didn't, maybe to reflect on the last year. What were some ways that I enhanced my environment, whether it be at home, at work, in church, in a small group, a gathering, a sports team, fantasy football? Like, how did I add value to people in my life this last year? I think that's always a great question to reflect on.
Well, that's a really cool perspective, because obviously we all have different facets of our life where we have the opportunity to, pour into other people and engage with other people, and even, hopefully continue to spread the good word with other people. So on that train of thought, like we were talking just a little bit ago, where do you think this challenge takes us, from adding value to, like, drill down into the specifics as we go into year number 2 of Drive Time and we continue on in the season we're in at church?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. And I want to say, I'd like to connect the answer to that question to what we've been talking about in church, because I think they're one and the same. They go together. We did a series in January called Brand New, and that was not just a series. That is a profound, I believe, now word from God for us as a group, which means it's going to have context and impact for us as a gathering, a congregation. But I also think it's going to have impact for us as individuals. I believe with all of my heart, if you will give God the slimmest bit of space in your life, he's going to reveal new things he's wanting to do. He wants to do new things in us and new things through us. And it can be financial, it can be professional, but it's not just like, oh, a tweak or an upgrade. It's like brand new. God is doing new things. And so, for me, one of my desires, I believe part of the vision is, I would like to really see the level of male leadership and engagement ramped up in our church in the next year. I think for the last couple generations, our society and culture has been under attack, taking away the masculinity side of manhood, taking away the man's role, and I'm all for making changes where we need to change, and equality. But if you look at the way God created men and women, even in the Bible, is equal value, but different roles, and it's not always exactly this way with every relationship, but part of our role as men is to provide and protect and really to lead. And lead by example, lead by serving, all the Jesus model of leadership. But I would really love for 2021 in our church to be marked by a year where the men really stepped up. Kind of a call to action, but not this like, oh, you guys better, but we need you, that there is, I'd like to see more men holding doors, giving out coffee, more men involved in leadership, more men engaged in worship. One of the things that I would challenge us all and to evaluate and invite you to is, I think when it comes to career, we all have drive, we all have passion. We will read books, we will listen to podcasts, we will take extra classes, we will work overtime to get the promotion, to crush the project, to further our business, to do whatever. But for whatever reason, sometimes that doesn't translate into our spiritual life. That when it comes to spiritual life, we kind of more hang back. Traditionally in America, the women are the one who bring the family to church. They're the one who want to do Bible study and worship night at home or whatever, do the small group, drag the husband to the marriage conference or whatever the case may be. But what if we took that same tenacity, that same drive we had in our careers, where we are made to conquer and accomplish and achieve, and we implemented that into our spiritual life. And so I'll already give you the end of this. I know we're only like 5 minutes in. Is what's the next step for you? Anybody who's watching this, anywhere in the world, anywhere in your faith journey, I'm encouraging you. I'm calling you to action. I'm inviting you. I'm inspiring you, attempting to take the next step forward. We do this in our jobs all the time. We get promotions, we take classes, we do whatever we got to do. But man, think of the impact that we would have in our community, our families, our churches, if we really just took one more step into leading the spiritual dynamic of our family and leading the spiritual dynamic of our church. Again, I don't ever want to use guilt. I don't want to bash anybody, but what if I'm just going to give a physical example. What if our physical posture in worship when we came to church went from this to this? Like just something physical, to an act of surrender where we created an environment. What if that next step is, so let me give you some examples. If you are, maybe you attend church semi-randomly, maybe your next step is going, I'm going to make it a priority to attend church every weekend. We're going to say no to other things and yes to church. And I'm going to bring the family. The wife's not going to have to ask or nag me. I'm going to say, hey, we're going to make this a priority. If you come most weekends, but you've never served on a team, maybe it's, hey, I want to join the men's leadership team. I know, Dave, if I'm not mistaken, you're building your men's team up again. You have some great men that are helping, but you're adding on to that leadership team. I would love to see more men holding doors at the Connect desk, working with kids. We have such an influence and a profound impact when we pour into kids, whether they be 2 and 3 and 4 year olds or 4th and 5th graders or whatever the case may be. And typically the teachers and the women do a little bit more with the kids anyway. So maybe that's an investment we can make. If you've never been in a group, maybe your step is to grow in a group. If you've never really prioritized regular Bible reading and prayer, saying, hey, I'm gonna make it a goal, like maybe with working out, I'm gonna make it a goal 3 or 4 days a week to spend 10 or 15 minutes getting on a reading plan, doing that SOAP method we all did for that 21 days of prayer. And so for me, like the new would be taking some of, again, our drive and our desire that we use for our leisure and for our career, and going, what if we stewarded that and implemented that spiritually the same way? Because if we're going to plan a golf trip or a fishing trip, I mean, we've looked up every hotel, we ran every budget, we know all the captains, we know all the golf courses, we know we have no problem putting into that. It was like, hey, could we do devotions as a family? Oh, I'm tired. I don't know. I got to go to the gym in the morning, or, like really increase the temperature of our spiritual engagement this year. Because we as men, we are looked to for our leadership, for our example. And, historically and traditionally, even in our culture, we see when men, one of the things that I think is a challenge is that when we don't step into our God-given role to lead, women will naturally step into that role. I mean, moms have been doing it for a long time as dads bail on the families, in churches, and because it's in their nature to nurture, to take care of, to be there. And so, but what if we all did it together? So a few weeks ago, I did the potluck, message about a fork and a plate, and that our approach to church is not just come hungry, but it's twofold. It's bring something and come hungry. And I would encourage all of us again that you have something vital to bring. We need you to be us. And so, you don't know what God has for you in store as you take that next step, but you also don't know how God wants to use you in somebody else's faith journey or story as you take that next step as well. And so, Dave, year 1, where would I like to see us go year 2? I'd love to ask this question a year from now and go, what was the step you took in 2021? Where did you implement, where did you take and transfer that drive you have in your career and your leisure and implement that into your spiritual life? Not just for 21 days of prayer, beginning of the year, a fast, but for the whole year, where I went, hey, I'm committing to this step this year.
It's interesting listening to you talk about that, how the women tend to step into the roles that men back away from. And then I think at the same time, I've heard guys use that as the excuse. Well, I don't need to do that because
the women are doing it.
The women are already doing it, or my wife already does that.
Yes.
And I think, or worse, are those guys who say, well, my mom was that, my grandma was that.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is they have that opportunity to break that generational cycle so that their kids grow up going, well, my dad did that. My dad was the reason we went to church.
I am telling you, all the women that are doing those things would gladly let us have those spots and cook, serve, lead, whatever. Like we cannot use that as an excuse. And so I am imploring the men who are watching this, let's let this be the year that we lead spiritually. We lead our church and we lead our families. And just see, I'm convinced, Dave, as the pastor of this church, not just because of my spiritual authority, but I'm convinced I have the vision for it. If we, as all the men, would say, I'm going to lead my family and I'm going to lead in this church this year, I believe we will experience all of the new and all the good that God has for us in our individual life, in our family, as well as in our body. And so, man, I would, I don't know how else to say it other than that. I want to be a part of a group where we are leading together, and it's not just all the men or all the women, and the women, even strong. I've learned this my whole life. Even strong women will follow and lead alongside strong men. And so, men, guys, we need you. Let's not let the society or the devil pull our God-given role in this thing, and let's lead spiritually in our homes, and let's lead spiritually in our church.
So, I mean, that's great. And gentlemen, I don't think we have to, every week we sit here and we say, okay, what's the takeaway? What's the action step for this week? What's our challenge? And, I don't think we need to even expand on it anymore. It's as clear as day. We need to step up in our God-given roles. We need to be the spiritual leaders of our home. We need to be the reason why our kids are engaged in church.
Yes.
And we need to evaluate. There's nothing wrong with prioritizing your health and your fitness. There's nothing wrong with the recreation side of, getting on an ESPN website and looking at stats and rankings and the banter of social media, healthy banter, by the way. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. But if we are doing those and leading in those areas and making those areas a priority and not prioritizing our spiritual growth and the spiritual health of our church and community, I think we're falling short. So
yeah, Dave, I think I would just say the simple takeaway, we've already said it, but I would just ask it this way. What is the next step for you? Is it from semi-regular attendance to attendance? Is it from coming hungry to starting to bring something, serving a group, joining the men's leadership team? I know you got some great ideas. What's that next step? That's the takeaway, is where am I being called to lead? And like you said, what if it was just 15 less minutes on ESPN and 15 more minutes in the Word, and we knew maybe as much about what David said in Psalms and Solomon said in Proverbs as we did the stats that Westbrook and Durant had last night? And I'm all for that. But let's do both and God will bless all of the things that we're doing when we're putting him first. I mean, he says, seek first my kingdom and my righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Matthew 6:33. So if you're worried about missing out, you're actually going to experience more if you prioritize that.
That's a great word. All right, gentlemen, that's our challenge. Cory, thanks for being here. Thanks for spending time with us again. Maybe we can get you twice next year instead of just once a year. But gentlemen, join us again next week. Same time, same locations, podcast, YouTube, Facebook. You know where to find us. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.